Hey guys, before we get started, I just wanted to apologize because obviously it's taken me a very long time to upload the final parts of this install, and some people are following the install guides in real time. So me taking 2 months to post the final part delayed their projects by 2 months. So I do want to apologize for that. I had other projects that ended up taking up a lot of my time, plus other things outside of car stuff. So finally got the time to finish it up, and here it is. Thanks. Alright guys, here we go. The most dreaded part of this install. Wiring. Running wires through the door and into the cabin. So, let's talk about tools. What tools are we going to need for this? For starters, you're definitely going to need a screwdriver, a decent length screwdriver. The reason for the length requirement is because this is what we're going to use to fish our wires through the rubber grommet. So if it's not long enough, you're obviously not going to be able to poke all the way through and tape your wires to the end and pull it out. But decent length Phillips head screwdriver, plastic removal tool, not a necessity, but if you want to do things cleanly and minimize the risk of damaging your car, this is a must-have. So those two, we're going to need some masking tape. Again, this is mostly just for damage reduction when we do this, and I'll show you exactly when we're going to use this tape. And this last one is kind of up to you. Electrical tape and or my favorite tape, I think I've said it before, Tessa tape. Let me see if I can find you the number here. Tessa tape 51036. The reason for the Tessa tape is because of the finish on this tape. The rubberized finish of traditional electrical tape is problematic because the rubber on the tape and the rubber in the grommet love to stick to one another and give you a lot of resistance when you're trying to fish the wire through. The tape, the Tessa tape I should say, has a textured finish, non-rubberized, so it slides through the grommet much more easily I should say. What I would do, if you're trying to use your Tessa tape sparingly, like I am, is give the wires, once you poke this through the grommet, give it one layer of electrical tape, or a couple layers of electrical tape, regular, and then the final layer, give it a Tessa tape layer for the outside so that it doesn't rub against the grommet and give you trouble. Alright, first things first, to get this door panel off, we're going to remove that window switch. Plastic removal tool right here. Pry it up. And you hear the pop. There it is. Slide it back and fold it away. There we go. Window switch out, set it to the side. Now we're going to have to come behind here by the door handle. There's going to be a little door. If you can't get it out with the interior removal tool, just grab yourself a small flathead. Doesn't matter what length, because it's literally the only place we're going to use it. Stick it in there, pry the cover out, be sure to catch it. So it's going to be oriented just like this, and I'll push in this tab and pull this part out and away. It's going to be held on by this little clip on the left side. So pull the right side out first and then pull it away. Set that to the side. And now we grab our screwdriver. We have one screw right down here. One screw right here behind the door handle. Set that to the side. And then we have one plastic clip here. You need to push in the center and then pull the clip out. Most push clips on Hondas are pull the center out and then the entire clip will come out. This one is the opposite. You push that center part inward and then it'll pull itself out, or you can pull it out. So now that the clip and the 2 screws are out, I'm going to grab right here in the door pocket and give it a good solid yank and get those clips to come out. Just like that. If you lose a couple clips, don't worry, you can always put them back on the door panel. It does happen sometimes, so get it popped all the way around. And there's one of the clips. I'll put that on later. Pull the bottom part out and lift, and make sure that your wire is going all the way through. If you have a CSX, you're going to have one more connector behind here, which is for the puddle light on the floor. If you don't, if you have a Civic, then you don't have to worry about this part. Okay. Now we're going to pull this back just a little bit because we still have 2 cables connected. We have the locking cable and the actual door handle cable still connected. So I'm going to pull both clips out. All right. Once both cables are out, the door panel will separate completely. You can set that to the side. Now this is where the fun begins. For starters, we will pull this grommet out. It goes through this plastic shielding. Just give it a tug, and now we should be able to set that to the side and start peeling back our plastic. Alright. Once you've got it peeled back enough, push these wires through. Alright. I got those out. We can pull this out just enough that it's not in the way. And we can just put those cables back here. So I'll pull you in closer and you can see where exactly that grommet terminates. The one right here on the door jamb. Alright, so you can see that grommet right there. So we're going to actually push the grommet out from the inside of the door towards the door jamb. And we're going to undo that white clip right there to give the wire some slack to be able to move out. Alright, so now that our clip has been undone and the rubber grommet is pushed through, we're going to pull all of the rubber part of it out of the door. And just do be careful with these wires here. You don't want the sheathing to come off because it was rubbing against the door here. You don't want to potentially short one of those wires. So just be very careful about that. But we will be pulling out all of the rubber towards this middle area. Okay. And now we're going to have to get this part out. This is pretty easy. You just pull it. And we will be putting our screwdriver, which is what we're going to use to pull those wires through. I'm going to be putting it in from the bottom of the grommet all the way to the cabin part of it. Alright, so now we've got this grommet pulled out. And there is actually a hole down here. I'm not sure if you can see that from this angle where my finger is. There's actually a hole right there, which is where the wires are going to poke through. So it's going to go from down here through the bottom of this grommet and this provided hole and then into the cabin. So in order to get better access, we're going to have to pull this grommet out way more than it is right now. And to do that, we're going to have to close the door slightly. Just do be careful with that black goop. That black goop is going to get everywhere if you're not careful. So now that the door is slightly closed, so not all the way open, but the click right before that on the door checker, like right there, it will have provided just enough space to pull this out way more. There we go. to the point where you can see those wires. And again, same thing, be careful with those wires rubbing against the chassis. You don't want to ground any of those wires out. But now we have better access to the hole in the grommet. So let's get our screwdriver down, or up from the bottom, and then through this top hole. Before we start that, the reason that tape was one of the required tools for this job is because we're going to tape this area right here. Because with the screwdriver being in this area, there's a really good chance we might accidentally scratch the paint or something. So if we cover it with masking tape or with the painter's tape I have here, we will reduce that risk greatly. So I'll cover this area and then get the screwdriver fished all the way up. Alright guys, that sucked. As promised, this was going to be the shittiest part of the job. So, stuck it all the way from the bottom through that hole. Again, being careful with these wires back here so as to not short them or ground them out. At a certain point where this grommet kind of curves, you're going to have to pull the rubber over the screwdriver instead of trying to snake the screwdriver, because you really don't have a lot of wiggle room in this area. It's very small, so you can't adjust the screwdriver to the curvature of the grommet. You're going to have to adjust the grommet to the straightness of the screwdriver. So, get it sticking out about 1.5 inches or 2, and let's get our wires. That sucked. That sucks so bad. Alright, so before we start taping up our wires to the screwdriver, we are going to remove these black connectors because these are going to be very difficult to fish through those grommets because of the sharp corners and the size of them. So let's get these depinned, and once they're all depinned, we can stick them onto the screwdriver and get them pulled. Alright guys, excuse the angle. My workbench is totally filled with other projects. But if you don't have one of these already and you even somewhat regularly do wiring, I highly recommend you get one of these depinning keychain sets. We are going to be using the thinnest one. I've already kind of bent it a little bit to what I need on a regular basis, but basically we're going to be bending up the tab on these metal pins so that these wires can be pulled right out. So we'll stick these right on top, sit on that top hole, and we're going to push down on a metal pin and pull, and boom, there goes the wire. Do the same on this side, and we'll go on the top, push down, and pull. So you can see how much thinner just the pins are as opposed to the connector. So that's why we're doing this. So one down. Again, if you don't have the aftermarket turn signal LEDs with the DRLs, you just have one. So your life will be a little bit easier. So let's do the same for the second one that I have. So stick it in, pull, out it comes, same thing, stick it in, pull, boom. So that's one connector and 2. Save those for later because obviously we're going to put those pins back in. So this is, just want to show you what exactly was holding those wires in. I'm not sure if this is going to focus, but you can see that little tab right there. A little ramp looking thing. That's what's holding it in. So we're putting our pin tool in there and pushing down on it as we pull. So let's go back to the car and tape these up to the screwdriver. So just a little tip Once you have your wires here, and they're obviously depinned as low profile as possible, I'm going to tape them up to the screwdriver like that. I will suggest that you overlap it about 1.5 inches or 2, just so that there's less chance of it breaking away while we're pulling it through the grommet. So there's nothing worse than having the wire come loose right in the middle of the pull, because then you have to fish it back out. So if you have 2 wires like I do, I suggest taping them together so that it's one before you start trying to get it onto the screwdriver. So let me show you what that'll look like. Alright, so here's my finished product. There's tape all around it, and then a bit onto this loom. So again, I used electrical tape because this is just the innermost layer. You definitely want your outermost layer to be Tesa tape. It'll make the pull much easier. And I say that with already having done the driver's side, which admittedly is the hardest because the amount of wires in this grommet are greater on the driver's side than on the passenger side. So I say that because I know that I failed once on the pull because I didn't use Tesa tape. And after thinking, how did it fail, I wrapped it, with like a 2-inch overlap and plenty of tape. I came to the realization that this is rubberized, and so is the grommet. So I grabbed my Tesa tape, gave it a layer, and it pulled through much better the second time. So, alright guys, as you can see, I'm all taped up and ready for the dreaded pull. So hopefully everything goes well. Got a decent layer of Tesa going around it, and I did throw the wires over the door because they were fighting me a bit when I had them down in this area. So I would just toss them over. That's kind of how it wants to sit anyway. So let's get to pulling. And I do find that another helpful tip is when you're pulling, give it slight turns with the screwdriver, slight twists, just to help it, shimmy through. And good luck, because it sucks when it fails. So make sure you got plenty of tape and go as slowly as you need. I wish best of luck. I'll see you on the other side. Holy crap, it worked. We got it. See the wires? See the grommet? Wires on the other side. Awesome. How'd you guys do? Let me know in the comments, scale of 1 to 10, how shitty that part was. That's a solid 8 for me. I'm not gonna lie, that sucked. I'm sweating.